Good evening, everyone. This is Mrs. Smith, one of the fourth grade teachers here at Simmons, and I wanted to share a short story with you called One Day in the Life of Bubblegum. And it was written by a group of students from Wisconsin, and it was part of a contest sponsored by Scholastic. It's a really cute story, and I'd like to share it with you. So here we go. One Day in the Life of Bubblegum. There once lived a piece of plain bubblegum who lived a very plain and boring life. Then one day his life changed. And here we see him laying inside of a candy store called Sweet Stuff, thinking, I'm bored. He was sitting in the candy box next to a lollipop, like he always did, when a hand reached in and grabbed him. And he thought, that tickles. It picked him up, took off his wrapper, and popped him into a little girl's mouth. Brr, it's cold outside my wrapper. The next thing the gum felt was teeth chomping down on him. It made him feel good to know that he was wanted. I love massages. Meanwhile, outside the mouth, the little girl and her mother were on their way to the park for a picnic. Hey, where are we going? When they reached the park, they chose to sit on a park bench. It was time to eat, so the little girl took the gum out of her mouth and stuck it under the bench. I can stick to anything. The gum waited patiently for over an hour, but the little girl didn't come back to get him. All he could do was stick there and watch feet go by him on the sidewalk. And Bubblegum's thinking, your socks don't match. A park maintenance worker named Bob walked up to the bench and started to scrape off the paint. He scraped quick and hard under the bench and sent the gum flying onto the sidewalk. Bubblegum's thinking, I'm flying. A businessman walking in the park stepped on the gum and it stuck to the bottom of his shoe. Boy, you're in a hurry. He walked to the street, flagged down a taxicab, and headed for the center of the city with the gum tagging along. Watch where you're driving. The taxi drove several miles and pulled up in front of a huge building. As the man stepped out of the taxi, the gum fell off his shoe and onto the sidewalk. Now Bubblegum's thinking, free at last. Just then, a small golden bird glided over the heads of the people on the sidewalk. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw the not-so-pink Bubblegum. Bubblegum thinks, what a beautiful bird. Thinking that the gum could be used to build her nest, she picked it up in her tiny little beak and flew off towards the park. Now Bubblegum's thinking, I need a travel agent. As she soared over the park, she saw the rest of her flock and heard her mate calling her. She opened her mouth to respond, and the gum fell to the ground. Where's my parachute? She dove to retrieve her find, but she was too late. A foraging squirrel saw the gum land and snatched it up in his furry front paws. The bird flew sadly back to her flock. Your paws tickle. The squirrel proudly held his prize in the air and took a nibble to see if it tasted as good as it smelled. Ouch, that hurt, thought Bubblegum. Sitting in the grass and admiring the gum, the squirrel had caught the attention of a small but ornery dog named Smoky. I'll give you a peanut to set me free. Smoky barked at the squirrel. The squirrel ran away and Smoky started to chase him, but stopped. Smoky saw the bubble gum that the squirrel had dropped. Oh, now Bubblegum's thinking, nice puppy, good doggy. Smoky sniffed at the gum curiously. He bit it and started chewing. The gum stuck in his teeth. Now Bubblegum thinks, you need a breath mint. Smoky walked over to his owner and tried to bark, and all that came out was a gurgle because of the gum. Get me out of here. Smoky's owner asked, what are you chewing on, Smoky? The owner opened Smoky's mouth, picked out the gum, and stuck it back under the bench. No, not back under here. The next day, the little girl and her mom came back to the park for a walk. The little girl wanted to rest, so they both sat on a newly painted bench. You could probably see where this is going. Where have I seen those shoes before? The little girl looked under the bench, and sure enough, the gum was still there. When her mother wasn't looking, she put the gum back into her mouth. That's more like it. As she chewed, she thought to herself, hey, this gum tastes better than yesterday. I wonder how it got so good. And Bubblegum thinks, what a life. So first, let's just say, don't do this at home. It's just a funny little story from the point of view of a piece of bubblegum. If you're hearing this, I believe it's March 18th, and it's Awkward Moment Day. And this would definitely be an awkward moment for this little girl had she been caught taking that gum off the bench. And it reminds me of that scene from Elf where he's scraping all those pieces off of the rail when he's in the city. But yeah, it's very disgusting. Don't do that. But do enjoy bubblegum the right way and enjoy the remainder of the stories you're reading tonight. And thanks for joining me. Take care.